All right, so I'm here with Chase Parker. I do not know too much about Chase, but we kind of linked on Twitter the other day. He was nice enough to reach out to me and kind of just answer some questions. And then he was nice enough to even get on this call with me here. So, yeah, this is Chase Parker. If you want to introduce yourself, say any intro statements, go ahead.
Yeah, for sure. Chase Barker, as you said, head of developer ecosystem here at Solana Labs, or actually Solana Foundation. Now we actually the DevRel team transitioned over to Solana Foundation not too long ago, and so I would say more recently I was the head of the developer relations lead, shifted the head of developer relations to more so focus on the sort of strategy around growing our developer ecosystem, education, and lots of different things, anything and everything developers.
Cool. So yeah, to give an intro on myself, I've been a software engineer for over 8 years. Been mostly product engineer, working in for different various sectors and things like that. Right now, I work at a legal tech company in San Francisco. Um, but yeah, over the past let's say 3 years, I've been looking into crypto and things like that. And within the last bull market, kind of Solana surfaced to me, and I was able to just follow it a little bit. And after following people on Twitter and one thing after another, I kind of landed on Chase's account and followed him and thought a lot of the stuff he had to say was interesting and very educational, stuff like that. So yeah, this is a good opportunity for me to and others to learn more about Solana and whatnot. Um, so yeah, I'm very I'm pretty much a rookie at all this crypto stuff. So I might ask some basic level questions, but it might be good for anyone who watches this. So I guess I'll start by, what is the difference between Solana Foundation, Solana Labs, etc.?
Yeah, so Solana Foundation is more so dedicated to and furthering along the Solana ecosystem, like furthering things like developer tooling, developer education, censorship resistance. It is really sort of like the community growth and all of these different things. Solana Labs, for all intents and purposes, at least as it started out, was a developer shop. It was a developer shop that the Solana core protocol itself is open source. Solana Labs team is one of the core developers to that protocol. It's open for anybody to contribute, but it is a dev shop. It's kind of more so. Solana Foundation is completely nonprofit entity. Solana Labs more recently has had some things that you may have seen come up, like the Solana phone that's coming out, Solana Pay, and lots of different potential sort of things that could be profitable in the end. So one is more so a business to an extent, with a dev shop that's producing our core protocol as one contributor. And Solana Foundation is really the group that's out here trying to just further the ecosystem as a whole in many different ways. Like I said, for me specifically focused on developers and education.
Cool. So it sounds like Solana Foundation is what helps drive all of the marketing and relations for Solana itself.
I wouldn't say Solana Foundation itself. Actually, funny enough, like the community is, and all the projects around here are the ones that drive most of the marketing as a whole. You know, Solana Foundation might be there to amplify some of their messaging or share some of their stuff on Twitter, but it's become, once that flywheel started spinning, it's become really its own like sort of self-marketing thing. You know, like somebody launches a big project that gets users and that picks up sort of media traction. But like, I wouldn't say so much marketing, but like they're there to help. And Solana Foundation has a grants program. So if you have a cool idea that you're like, hey, I have this really awesome tool that I want to build for developers, but I have a full-time job and like this is sort of a hobby, or like, hey, we're a team. There are grant applications. It's Solana Foundation. People can apply for grants to actually build for Solana. Those grants are not to like, hey, I want to build this cool product that's a profitable business for myself. That's not what those funds are for. That's typically what VC's for. We also have Solana Ventures, who's in its own thing as an investment arm into potential projects. But Solana Foundation, like I work with a lot of educational companies in Web3 who are like, apply for a grant to say, hey, we're going to build out a boot camp, or hey, we're going to build a school around Solana, and we can depending on the situation, offer grants to them. And then the DevRel team, the developer relations team, for anybody listening who doesn't know that term, will work with them directly to make sure that they're building out sort of the best education possible for anybody who decides to join them.
Cool. So yeah, I saw some hackathons going on across the world pretty much. Is that ran by Solana Foundation?
Yes. So there's a couple different things, and they sometimes get confused. We historically, over the past couple of years, do about 3 major hackathons per year. And those hackathons are not I wouldn't say they're your typical hackathon. It's not like you come in and you just like, anybody can build anything, but the visibility on these things is so massive. Our most the current one, Solana Summer Camp, had 15,000 registrations, which is a lot. Who knows? Some of that may have been spam, but 700 projects submitted, which is massive because like that's in line with the Google and the Amazon hackathons around the world. So the results aren't out yet, but typically what happens with these is the top projects end up getting investments. They obviously want a prize in the hackathon, but the visibility on these is so great that they lead to massive opportunity. But alongside the hackathon this year, it was called Solana Summer Camp. We actually had Solana Summer Camp physical spaces located around the world so that people could go there and like build in an environment with other people. So this was a new element. It's the first time we did it. It was actually really successful. Lots of people really enjoyed just, you kind of lose motivation just sitting in your office or bedroom or whatever, building by yourself. So being around other people to ask questions, get inspired, and kind of like share ideas ended up being a good move for us. And then
Yeah,
alongside that, and one more thing, just to like clear it up, we also have
yeah.
hacker houses. And in the last year, by the end of the year, we're going to end up doing 24 of them. These are free to everybody. They're located all over the world, every region, every country that we can hit. I think we just finished. We're about to go to New Delhi, India, and then there's Singapore left, Vancouver, and all these things. So they're like 4 to 5 days, free to everybody. Come build, come present your project, come listen to speakers, come learn how to build on Solana.
Yeah, that's all awesome. And yeah, I definitely been noticing all of that online, all of the Hacker House stuff, the hackathons and the other things there. Um, but yeah, it seems like you guys are doing a lot for the developer community and being able to scale the ecosystem. I don't know if it's just Twitter doing a good job at curating all of my tweets I see, but like my timeline's always flooded with current events of just stuff going on at Solana, you guys hosting things. There's a store popping up in Miami, there's one in New York City. So it just seems in general there's a lot going on with Solana. And I know from paying attention recently that I think Solana takes pride in that of pushing forward with so much stuff all of the time constantly and just pushing. I mean, even with the Solana phone, like they're the first to, tap into that area. And then just all of the innovation that kind of happens in Solana that, sometimes people give you pushback on it because things might not be so stable or other things like that. But I do think it's a really good thing that you guys aren't afraid to push so quickly and heavily on things. And it seems like you guys have been moving mountains the past 2 years. So yeah, it's all kind of cool to see. And I think that's what kind of sparks my interest.
Yeah, just to kind of touch on some of those things, Solana Foundation, the Solana Labs, the community like is constantly pushing. It's their, it could be Twitter's algo, it could just be that we're like very loud about what we're doing, and like we do, like as an organization, like with the phone, like everybody initially was like, "This is dumb. Why would you make a Solana phone? Like, why don't you fix your network?" Number one, for the whole network sort of issues, there's been zero issues in the last 3 months since like the latest sort of stable upgrade, and right now averaging like 3,000 transactions per second, bursts up to like 6 and 7,000. No blockchain's ever done that before. And then our test net is showing that we're pushing like 14,000 transactions a second.
Yeah.
But we do get like, there's definitely a lot of slack. Like, it's like, oh, Solana's launching a store. This is actually a private entity that decided to do this. This is not
Yeah.
us. And then the phone stuff, it's like there was lots of slams, and then Anatoly gets out there and explains this. Like, users aren't going to carry around a hardware device on themselves, a ledger, or like keep their funds like unsafely just stored on a random phone. Like, the whole purpose of this phone is to have like security of your assets and make it easy to like use crypto without having to like have all these random wallets and all these like different hardware devices. So it's a, I think in general though, with all the things you're saying, is that there's a lot of competition right now. It used to be on the smart contract side and like this sort of blockchain programming side, it was only Ethereum. And now there's like a lot of competitors. And I think we're like at that point where like everybody has to like be pushing. It's good. Competition forces change and it forces innovation. And like Solana in general, like even if you're going to get made fun of, you got to take bets, because like if you play conservatively, like you end up losing the game. So
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, one thing about the phone, honestly, when it first came out, I kind of got I guess I didn't feel that great about it. I think only because my bias of iPhone versus Android, and I'm like this is awesome, but how thoughtful is this going to be that it's on an Android device? And then just like thinking more in depth about it, it does a lot for, well, first of all, I know they can't, develop on the iPhone. It's not open source and things like that. But I think it actually does a lot for the developer ecosystem for crypto in general that people maybe not seem to notice is now that they have a platform for developers to develop all of these mobile decentralized apps, now, all of this innovation can actually happen through mobile. So I don't know how many people, if that clicked with a lot of people or what, but that's kind of how I ended with that.
yeah, so on the phone stuff, like I don't expect the masses to come and jump into this because they haven't even been really sold on crypto yet, fully. I think, but there's thousands of, it might be tens of thousands at this point of pre-orders, of for crypto natives. And why I agree, like I'm an iPhone user, and like the green text message thing is just like no thanks. But at the end of the day, the centralized sort of app ecosystems of iPhone, like they have rules around crypto, they have rules around like charging users money for every sort of digital purchase that you do, they take a 10% cut. That
Mhm.
doesn't work with NFTs. Number one, you wouldn't be able to have it natively in an app, NFTs, and number two, if you sold an NFT, they're supposed to take a cut. But if that's all happening on chain, it's literally impossible for that to even work. So the phone thing, my initial bias towards the phone was like, I don't get it. And then like slowly start listening to Anatoly and start hearing like what the real true sort of vision for this is for. And even if this isn't the final sort of version of it, then you still have the opportunity, to really change the way that people think about these things.
Yeah.
And if you can convince an iPhone person to switch to Android because you have this DApp ecosystem there, then like that would be pretty incredible. I don't think it'll happen quickly. It'll be very slow if it does. And then maybe there is a way to like get those blue text messages on a version of one of these phones as well. But it's just like it enables like developers to build natively to mobile without having to use all these hacked together tools and try to like kind of obfuscate ruling around like mobile, like iOS, different like marketplace rules. So the idea itself is really great. Execution wise, it's going to be really challenging, but I do believe that there is a strong chance that this actually works.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. That would be interesting. Um, so I guess in your time now, the phone came out, the stores came out. I guess you guys are continuously pushing on documentation and things like that. What does your day mostly consist of, and kind of what are your higher level goals this next month or this next quarter?
So I'll go back quite a bit further than that. So
Mhm.
I got into Solana. I was at a previous blockchain company before Solana in 2020. And like 2019 to 2020, I was at a company called Kin. They were like one of the biggest ICOs of 2017. Had really cool ideas about building like out a mobile ecosystem of apps where you can kind of earn and spend crypto. I think the idea itself was way too early and everybody was too like big into just like kind of trading coins, and like nobody was really thinking about building mobile apps for crypto yet. It was more so like really immature. But along the time that was happening, Kin was decided it was on its own fork of Stellar, decided to migrate to Solana. So mid 2020, before they were even on mainnet. So I started paying attention and I was like, this is interesting. If this is not a scam, it sounds like better Ethereum to me. Because lots of promises being made about the speed and the cost. And I was like, I don't know. I only know so much, but this sounds like a little crazy. Why wouldn't Ethereum have done this if it was possible? But over the course of 2020 and leading into 2021, I followed Solana very closely. And in May, they opened up a developer relations job. I applied and started speaking with Raj, co-founder, and a couple others that I had worked with on that blockchain migration from Kin to Solana, who they knew me. And they were like, okay, well, we need this role. Like, we've already worked with you, so this seems like a good fit. When I started, Solana was built by a bunch of gigabrain engineers that had no clue what developer experience meant, like no idea. It was just really core, heavy, meaty documentation
Yeah.
that like only the smartest of people could ever even attempt to build an app with it. There were no code snippets. There was none of this. It was the only way to do it was to just to be extremely like already knowledgeable about these things, or hang out in Discord and ask the core engineers questions, which is just not scalable long term, especially with the demand now. So when I joined, first thing I did was just hang out in support and see what people were having trouble with. Started putting together what you start to see, the demand for engineers was so high that you started to see all this community form and these like individuals in Discord helping out. They're not employed, they're not doing anything. So they started like doing support, like and helping other people on the Discord. So I started putting these groups together in like smaller Discords and like asking them if they would be interested to continue helping and potentially get some grant money to just keep contributing. And then some of them started to write some articles. And then it's kind of like there's no real path to developer relations and how you do it. So I was like, we have this massive community, we have people writing content. So I started using my Twitter account, and this is one thing that's pretty unique to Web3. I started using my Twitter account to start like tweeting, hey, like we need some more content. People started doing it, and then like I started retweeting it, and then somebody would see that like, hey, I want Chase to retweet my content. And then like over the course of like 6 months, we had produced 50 to 100 pieces of content just through an altruistic community. And then after we kind of proved out that we could do that, I was able to hire a couple people. And then we started doing our own things and producing our own content. Now the DevRel team is 5, including somebody for university relations, where we're actually talking to universities and trying to like provide them with the tools that they need, the workshops, the boot camps, the resources, so that when somebody is ending like finishing up their schooling and they're into Web3, like Solana is like one of the first blockchains that they sort of get access to and know about and are able to build on. So, and then so just flash forward to now, we create so this was not my idea. Two people in the DevRel team came up with the idea for the Solana cookbook. SolanaCookbook.com is like a human readable version of our documentation, reference examples and code snippets, easily to kind of build up an app. We just completed a course, full end-to-end self-serve course. It's on soldev.app/course. And now all the sort of the whole goal was we had to reach parity with Ethereum on education. So we basically finally are to a place where we have that base layer education. All of it's open source, all of it's free. The whole goal was now that people that want to teach Solana could take what we've put together and then make a video series out of it, make a boot camp out of it. So it's all about scaling education. We like as a DevRel team, we can't do it all ourselves. So it's about creating the base stuff, providing a playbook and some ideas, and then people can take that and run with it however they want. And we're already seeing people start to do that. The course just completed and somebody's already building a video series on top of it because there's that type of learner. But and I know this is kind of long-winded, but like if we're looking at now, between the end of this year and the end of next year, or by the end of this year, the whole goal is to take everything we've created, like make sure that gets up on our website and the perfect sort of learning path so that anybody that can come on can know exactly how to go from 0 to hero on Solana. And then really making as many relationships with Web3 educational companies as possible to get Solana's curriculum there so that they can start teaching that to their sort of regionally based areas. Like we have a group in Turkey, we have some in India, we have places, and like we're looking at Africa right now. All Web3 brings opportunity to a lot of people that didn't have as much opportunity as we have here in the West, and that's just a real reality. Like the potential is really massive to change a lot of people's lives. And but the only KPI I have, which is I'm kind of somewhat the owner of it, is the developer number. Developer number go up is what I'm focused on. And like that's really the core of the DevRel team, is to make it easy and capture as many developers coming into Web3 as possible.
Cool. Yeah, thank you for all of that. I know we're limited on time here, so you can cut out whenever. But yeah, some things that popped up in my head over this conversation is that's one thing I like about Solana too, is the documentation so easy to read. They literally you guys literally format it in a way that's like, Joe down the road has 10 apples and Sally down the street has 5. So they do comparisons like that and make it very easy to understand to someone who's not into tech, someone who doesn't know anything about crypto, Solana, whatever. So yeah, I took a look at that a while ago, and it was so easy to read. Everything is just the access to everything is really easy. I looked at a video of someone standing up a Solana Pay app, and basically you have the boilerplate code ready to go. You just run a couple command lines and start running the app and things like that. And then so love what you guys are doing on the documentation side, and definitely curious to see what's upcoming, and excited to what you guys have in your back pocket.
Yeah, the Solana Pay stuff is interesting. Like it's called a protocol, but it's not a blockchain protocol. It's basically, just for anybody listening to this, Solana Pay, Solana built a client-side protocol that allows any merchant to set up and accept USDC at their store. And it's insanely powerful. The funny thing about crypto is that we have all these use cases. NFTs is obviously like overtaken everything right now. I don't think DeFi was ever going to be the massive onboarding tool, because in my personal opinion, most people don't even understand regular finance. So understanding decentralized finance just complicates it. NFTs are just a relatable. I know a lot of people don't understand them. I don't even need to get into that, but like, it doesn't really matter what certain people think, because a large group of people are really into it right now. And it's just giving some visibility into crypto. But the Solana Pay, the original use case for crypto was supposed to be borderless payments, and nobody has ever to this, like there's a bunch of Bitcoin has their own thing and everybody's trying to do it. And I think honestly, like as an organization and as a blockchain, Solana is probably the closest with the creation of Solana Pay. just makes it really easy for merchants to accept crypto just by scanning the QR code.
Mhm.
And like nobody solved the payments problem. We're like 11 years or so in, or what, however many years we are at this
Yeah.
point, I can't remember. And nobody solved the payments thing. And it's mostly been by just throughput and how many transactions you can get through and how cheap it is. Like nobody's going to pay $10 to send $5. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So it's it's been yeah, lots of cool things happening. I used to be able to track it all. Now I don't have enough minutes in a day to track everything happening in the Solana ecosystem. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, I'm sure. So one last question, I think maybe the biggest priority I had over this conversation is I heard you say that in the beginning when you were diving into Solana, you were like, oh, is this too good to be true? Things like that. And you know, if why hasn't Ethereum done this already? So can you actually explain why Solana was able to push through on some of these breakthroughs before Ethereum?
Well, yeah. So the thing is just like Ethereum was set up on a custom language and like it was meant to be able to like run nodes on your phone and like that limits you in a lot of ways. Like I'm not that core engineer, but I can kind of describe why. So Anatoly works for wireless networks. Their whole job like on these like working on wireless networks is to send as much data through a wire or like wireless as possible, condensed and like as much as you can cram through it as quickly as possible. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to talk on wireless phones because it would just be delayed and like it would just be expensive. So that's like what his focus was. So I mean, like one of the core things for Solana, there's some core innovations. They're pretty technical. Something called proof of history that just allows for ordering of transactions based on like on time. But to kind of just keep this a little more meta, a little more high level, is that Solana was built on a low-level programming language, and low-level programming languages are essentially passing around just bits and bytes. If you move higher up the stack, there's a lot more garbage that gets passed through the networks, which like slows it down. And not to mention, like one thing that a lot of people kind of like talk about Solana is that like not everybody can run a node on their phone, and like sure, that's true. But like the reality is you're never going to scale to 1 billion users by having like validators on a cell phone. They're not fast enough. Solana is using all, I think we now have like it might be over 2,000 validators, independent validators running these nodes. And like they're all running high beefed up GPU machines that can push data through a wire as quick as, I mean, we're talking like speed of light stuff. And like theoretically, that's the only limitation of Solana right now because the way it's designed is speed of light.
Gotcha. So that makes sense. So basically, Solana, very low level and gives the opportunity to pretty much send condensed information from point A to point B instead of Ethereum is kind of built differently to where it needs to essentially send some garbage along with it, what it actually needs to send. So it's more heavyweight.
Yeah, it's I wouldn't it's not necessarily garbage. It's just a bigger message that they have to send
Right.
across,
Yeah.
and like they're not using the sort of beefed up machines that Solana is using. So this is like a core difference, and like the consensus mechanism the consensus mechanism is much different as well. Again, like these are super like complex things that probably aren't great for a conversation like
Yeah.
this. But yeah, it really boils down to like Solana's runtime using low level sort of binary passing binary messages back and forth. And it just makes it a lot faster.
Cool. All right. Well, yeah, I think that's it. Thanks for everything. That was very helpful and a lot of information there. And yeah, thanks for what you're doing. You're making everything really easy for, you know, us to understand, people who are coming into Web3 and crypto and everything like that. So yeah, much appreciated.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Thanks for having me on, Nate.
Yeah, for sure. Take care.